KO Customs is always my go-to for LEGO X-Men Customs, and I own a majority of the figures that they've made. Definitely at least one of every character they've done, basically, and needed to add one more to my collection, which will be Sunfire. It is from Age of Apocalypse's universe, so not going to be necessarily the look I'm looking for to complete the giant size X-Men team, but this will be my Sunfire for the collection. Unless someone comes and makes a really good pad version of that. It's really cool. It's on a transparent yellow, which will go with some of the other characters I've got. And I also have an Apocalypse, so it still kind of fits in that universe. Let's check out what's in there, though. My favorite part of KO minifigures is how well they fit in together. You saw in the previous shot how different brands, official LEGO figures, they all look great together. So you got the minifigure and some fire accessories, which I believe are a mix of official parts, as well as some custom molded ones that match official parts. But this will help decorate the figure, put in different scenes inside of the packaging as well. You got a card with the KO logo in their classic metallic gold. This one's going to be 95 out of 100, nothing on the back. And here is Sunfire. For me, kind of an unknown character. My really only exposure to the Age of Apocalypse storyline is from Uncanny X-Force. I do believe I dabbled a little bit in reading some of the comics, maybe at Barnes & Noble at some point. But, you know, I've seen the design through Marvel Legends action figures and all that, so I can definitely tell that this is accurate. I've looked at some images as well, and right off the bat, you know, that transparent kind of glittery yellow is really nice and going to keep this figure very unique for your collection, fitting pretty well with your Iceman if you got that from KO, the version 2, I should say, or more of the transparent plastics. You can see that there's a little bit of a sheen difference where it's a little less see-through here. And I didn't even know that this color existed for LEGO necessarily, so that is also a nice get. You're going to get a couple molded parts here, which are going to be shared with the Atlas Brick and Poison Figs Human Torch that they collabed on. So nice to see the parts continue over here with a little bit of flame coming up with the neck, and of course the hair flame type piece, which I believe is basically a copy of the official one that was originally molded onto like the Ghost Rider head as well as the Pumpkin head, and will basically be the same as the one that Mr. J used for their Human Torch, since they're based off the same mold. Of course, this one will be removable. When I was doing this off camera earlier, I did notice it is going to be a little tight since transparent plastic is already tight against stuff and just has more friction, so two different shades of those types of plastics will, you know, be a little bit dangerous, and you want to be careful not to, you know, rub things the wrong way, especially with the print on the head. You don't want to damage that. So just be safe with your minifigures. But here's what it looks like without the hairpiece on. Basically just the face print, which is to be expected, with the white mask, which I do think this design for him is just way cooler, obviously. You got like the red matching the Japanese flag on the front there. Some eyes peering through the mask, and there is a very faint mouth on there, which I really didn't notice until I was looking at it nice and close. But that is, you know, a very subtle detail. And honestly, I guess from my mind's eye of the character, doesn't even have a mouth usually, so unexpected, I guess, as someone that isn't super familiar with the design. Everything else on here, though, is going to be just black printed on with some very cool details, which are going to be found in the legs. And that is that this is actually completely printed around with that black for the hip. That way, when you're looking at it from the side, it's not going to have an issue with like the black peg showing through the yellow. So that is a very nice feature and something that KO mentioned to me in DMs. So that is a fun, very cool detail, and I want to make sure I pointed that out since these legs are completely the transparent yellow. That little bit of extra step there to fill in the design a little bit better and just add a little bit more for the consumer to have a more seamless design, since, like I already said, there would be a little of extra black showing on the inside of the leg, and we're avoiding that here, which, you know, good on them. Maybe it would have been super noticeable either way, especially like from the back here. That's probably where you would see it the most with the black pegs that would have showed there. But I'm blown away by that. They're always thinking about those little things that just bring their products up a little bit more. Do really like all the black on here, and it is printed very nicely where you can see next to the plastic. Everything looks perfect. Which I guess it's all printed, I guess now that I think about it. Just grabbing my nearest plastic figure, being the heroic minifigure printed symbiote head that I reviewed recently. And again, even with the plastic next to it, you can see that the color is perfect still. All the print on there is going to be solid, nothing bleeding through or anything like that. On the arms, you can see a little bit of extra print for some bands to continue the design all the way around on both sides. Same for the legs with that little bit of printing. Probably nothing on the inside of the legs. Don't see why they would need it in this case. And nothing on the back of the legs. So again, not the craziest minifigure, but with the transparent color of the plastic here, that's what's going to make this figure a little bit more expensive. And there's only 100, which is the pretty typical number for KO figures. I think Jubilee was 80, I think. So that was kind of the lower one in most recent times. Just going to pop off the head and the flame piece. Might be a little easier off camera. I'm sure this is going to be one of those parts that'll be like the Gambit sort of collar pieces where you just want to be careful. You don't have to take the head off all the way to get the flame off. Raising it a little bit, it'll just pop off. And we can see the rest of the back with, I believe, the black sort of being where the muscles would be. And that collar piece will continue all the way around. It is kind of interesting that the really only part that isn't subtle, like muscle detailing where the black is like the triangle on the torso there in the pec area. Everything else really just feels like shadowing of some sort for his actual musculature. But I guess here is the minifigure. No flames. Looks good still, and we have some more accessories to toss on, so I'll put all the flame parts back on. But before we get to that, I just noticed there's also like more printing of the white onto the top of the head, so it's nice to see that wrap around a little more. The easiest accessories that were included were just these flame pieces, which I don't think they're the official ones since these are more of a hard plastic, but are the exact same ones that Lego also makes, but I believe in the softer plastic. So these will be a higher quality, they'll go into hands easier and all that. And this definitely looks good. I also have another option for a handheld flame piece that will, again, use a custom part, being the official mold for the Lego clip part there. Obviously in orange though, so it'll just fit into the hand. Feels like the clutch is a little bit better on this one than some of the other ones I've had from him, since, you know, it's not going to be an official part. The tolerances are going to be a little less consistent, but looks like it will hold in the angle that you put it in the hand, and it'll just give you a little bit of a flamethrower look. So that is nice to be included. There are different combos of oranges though, where this is the classic sort of neon orange from the 90s and all that, and these other two are going to be the more modern version of transparent orange. We have more parts to throw on too, which will be extra flame pieces that go onto the feet of the minifigure for some flight. Of course, you can kind of combine all of these together to create a more organic flight pose as you are posing in a build or just your display in general. Nice to have these options. These classic flame pieces are nice where they do have the little pegs to connect to another flame piece. So I've seen that technique for like Doctor Strange portals. Nice to see it here as an extra little bit of feature. Having extra flame accessories are also just nice, but not necessary, especially when they're mostly official parts like this. But again, they're going above and beyond, giving you a full package, and that is appreciated here for Sunfire. Let's go to some comparisons in the final verdict. When it comes to a custom minifigure, the more unique the better, and I definitely think that is going to be the case here for KO Custom's version of Sunfire, and that's just going to be because of custom molds, and of course the overall color of the plastic being that glittery, transparent yellow from Lego, which is pretty much going to be impossible to get from now on. The random transparent minifigure parts that are made in Lego factories but not obviously, you know, sanctioned Lego parts are always getting a little bit rare to get, and every time I see them I do try my best to pick up the character, since probably going to be the only time it will be done, like when it comes to Glob and the different Human Torches I have, the Mr. J one here and the one from Atlas and Poison Figs that I mentioned earlier that I'm going to get eventually. All of those are going to be, you know, a lot rarer in the future because of the limited nature of those parts. I just wanted to put in Beast here, which is a mix of the official and the KO version, and Wolverine, since those were two other characters that were released at the same time as Sunfire in different looks, with Beast being a lab coat version and Wolverine being from X-Men Evolution. Just didn't pick them up at the time just because I wanted to limit my spending, and I already have a really good Beast, and if I were to do a lab coat version, I'd probably just get a cloth coat sort of piece to make one on my own for a couple dollars. It looks really great, lots of good parts there too. Or the X-Men Evolution version, I also grew up on that show, and just at the moment not going to fit my collection. I have enough Wolverines, and I have the KO one here, which is good enough for me. And even if it isn't transparent plastic, it can be just very cool metallic pieces like the Colossus the KO did back in the day. And again, just with custom molds like the Nightcrawler tail, they always do those things to make their figure stand out so much, and that is what makes them one of the best brands. And I'm always super happy to get their figures in hand and just to check out their newer designs. They always do a really great job, and I'll always recommend them. If you want to get X-Men minifigures, always worth the price. Super reasonable. It's always ready to sell, so you'll get it within a week or two. And just a standout character. It's one of the cooler designs in an X-Men, especially with Age of Apocalypse. I think this translated super well, especially in the plastic form now. Just still a very cool design for a character. And I don't think I'm going to really jump into like an Age of Apocalypse collection now. I would get a Nightcrawler maybe to go with like an Uncanny X-Force setup if I even had one of those. I guess I basically have the... No, I don't have the Deadpool since that's just a red suit. Don't have any of the characters, but obviously I have Wolverines, I have Deadpools, I have a Psylocke now. I really just need like a Phantom X, and one of my needs is an Archangel to fill out the 90s teams, as well as just have a custom version of Warren in some way. This would count for my Sunfire now, so I would need a Thunderbird, as well as a Banshee. And I think that might be it for my giant size collection, as well as my 90s collection, which are the two teams that I'm trying to collect. I'll get some characters here and there, whether it is, villains like Apocalypse or Glob, again, because it has a cool transparent look and is going to fit very well into my collection as something a little bit rare and unique. But I don't know. I feel like, again, I'm getting really close to finishing my collection. Not a whole lot of characters I still need, but I'm always going to keep my eye out. Let me know, though, are there any characters here that are standing out to you that you like, and what did you think of Sunfire? Let me know in the comments. If you want to see more custom LEGO X-Men or LEGO X-Men videos overall, check out all the content on my channel. If you want to help out even further, feel free to join as a member for some extra perks. Like always, I have been Brooke Radiop, and I will see you in the next video.